This is Russ. We're out here in Wisconsin. Yeah, we're on Washington Island. It's Door County, Wisconsin. So in front of me is Mrs. Wright, affectionately known as Mrs. Wright. Actually, she was named by you guys. I think all you guys named her Mrs. Wright. So she will be known as Mrs. Wright on the channel. Now, Mrs. Wright typically does not like being on camera, as you know. But we made a deal with Magicycle. Well, let me make some adjustments to my mirror here. There we go. We made a deal with Magicycle saying that if they would send us a second Jaguarundi folding bike, we would ride together. And now you'll notice that Mrs. Wright always pedals. She only uses the throttle when she gets started. Like if she stops and then she needs to get started again, she'll use the pedal afterwards, but she'll use the throttle up to that point. And she's moving pretty fast. We're gonna have to catch up to her. So yeah, in order to get to Washington Island, you gotta take a ferry. So we took our car, we had the bikes inside the car, and took the ferry. Now, the car was really loaded down. I'm not kidding. It had a lot of stuff in there. So what we did is we put one of the Jaguarundis in a 55-gallon container that we got from Home Depot. And we put her bike in there. And then we folded up my bike. There's also another Jaguarundi. And we put it in the trunk area of that car. Then we stuffed everything else around it. So all of our luggage, all of the batteries, everything is stuffed there. So the entire car was loaded with things. I'll show you a photo of it so you can see what it looked like. Yeah, it fit, but it was tight. Now, the reason we decided to take the Jaguarundi instead of taking the rear rack in the car and then taking some bigger bikes is, first off, it's a lot tougher to have to travel several hours to get to Wisconsin with that rear rack on the car versus using bikes that could fit inside the car. We felt was a little bit easier to deal with. So we opted to use folding bikes instead. I'll tell you, just to get ready to do this ride, it took a long time just to get the bikes out, put the batteries on, strap the secondary batteries on. If you look at her bike, you'll see that there's something on her rear rack, and that is the secondary battery that was given to us by Magicycle. Thank you to Magicycle for sponsoring this particular video, because without their help, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now. So thank you to them for the bikes and for their support over the last year and so. Year and a half, maybe? Has it been that long? Have we been working with Magicycle that long? Maybe about a year, I think, something like that. But anyway. So you notice my wife is always pedaling. This is how she gets great mileage. And of course, as you know, I don't pedal that often. I could. All right, let's pedal a little bit. Now I have my pedal assist levels set at different levels. I'm at 4. I am ghost pedaling at this point, which means I don't have any resistance on the pedals when I pedal. But just to catch up with her, I mean, she is going so fast that it's actually easier for me to throttle. Now the Jaguarundi does have cruise control. If I hold it down long enough, cruise control will take over. I think it's at least 8 seconds, something like that. And as long as I don't pedal and as long as I don't hit the brakes, it'll continue to keep moving at that rate that I set it at. Makes it easier. Like right now, I'm cruise controlling. So I could just enjoy looking around and seeing what's around and not think too much about the pedaling portion of it. So let me tell you a little bit about our trip. I think it took a little over almost 4 hours and 15 minutes or 4 hours and a half, something like that, for us to get here from where we are in the Illinois area. And we're staying at a place called what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. I'll put a graphic up. That way you can find out what it's called. Very clean place. We've been there before. It's probably been a good 7 or 8 years since we've been back there. And so we went back there again. Very clean place, very nice place. Management's very nice. The lady who was in the front there, in the front office, I believe she's one of the owners. And okay, we are taking a left here. And so she's very kind and very helpful. Yeah, I would highly recommend you guys stay there. It's too bad I can't remember the name. This is the problem I told you that I have. I tend to... Okay, I'm stopping here. I'm picking up my glove. Now, you might notice, and of course Mrs. Wright is just going forward. She doesn't look in her rearview mirror often enough. So she doesn't know I'm way back. She's gonna leave without me. Now, why did my glove fall off of her bike? Well, I was adjusting her bike. I had both gloves, and the next thing you know it, I couldn't find the other glove. So I knew I had them both while I was adjusting her bike. Couldn't find it. Well, it just fell off of her bike. So obviously it was somewhere on her bike and it fell off. So I don't have the other glove now because I left that in the car. So I am gloveless right now. I don't actually like being gloveless. I like having my riding gloves because if you fall, you do have a tendency to stick your hands out, and if you do that on any type of pavement, you're gonna skin your palms. Yeah. But I have no choice at this point. But it's a good thing I saw that it had fallen off of her bike, because we were looking all over for it. I had a feeling it was somewhere on her bike. We just couldn't see it. I don't know where it was that it would fall off. Anyway, like I said, Mrs. Wright never looks in her rearview mirror. She has no clue I'm way behind her, I'm sure, and she's going pretty fast. She's going at least 20-something miles an hour. Well, I'm doing 22, 23. I'm catching up to her, so maybe she's doing 20 miles an hour at this point. Now, let me tell you a little bit about riding, okay? When she first got on her bike, she hadn't ridden her bike in a long time either, about as long as I had not ridden my mountain bike. And when she was on her bike, yeah, she fell off. Everybody falls, I'm telling you, right? But she got right back on, continued on, and then eventually she started trying out the e-bikes. Now, as you know, we had a Rad Mini Step Through 2 for her, which we did sell to one of our subscribers. Thank you very much to him. So now he's enjoying that bike. And so she moved on to the Magicycle Ebikes Pro. Well, that's a nice bike, obviously. But we wanted 2 folding bikes. Like I said, we wanted to stick it inside the vehicle. And the thing is, the hotel that we're at is actually, I don't know if you would call it a motel, but they're individual things. They're not inside like hallways or anything like that. It's like outside by themselves. And so anyway, you cannot bring your bicycles inside your room, otherwise you get a $250 fine. And I asked management this before. I called them up, and they said the reason is because they found that people were bumping their bikes into the walls and bumping it into the doorway and everything. And so they said there's a $250 fine if you bring your bikes in. Now, I did ask them about charging the e-bikes. I said, well, what do we do if we need to charge our e-bikes then? And they have a charging area in the back of their facility where they have their Tesla charging. And you can store your bikes inside their shed, but the shed remains unlocked. So you have to lock your bike to their stuff in their shed. We didn't feel comfortable with that, with e-bikes. and that's why we leave the bikes inside our car. But I said, what about the charging? And they said, well, you can bring that inside to charge it. I was kind of surprised a little bit because most people are more afraid about the battery fire, potential battery fires. But she didn't seem to mind. So yeah. So what we decided we would do is we have these fireproof bags. You'll see it on the back end of her bike in front of me, and we can just stick it in there and charge it. Or we could just bring the batteries home and charge it. We are here for 3 nights, 4 days and 3 nights. And so if we do a lot of riding as we're doing now, we may have to charge. If we don't plan to do more than today's riding, we could technically just charge it when we get home. So we'll decide down the road which way we're going to do it. I have a feeling we probably will do some charging. I mean, whether we charge at home, whether we charge there, if it hasn't blown up yet, it probably won't again, but you never know, right? So, but we did bring the fireproof bags. Hopefully that would help something in case anything did happen. So, Mrs. Wright has a blinking headlight on. Again, this is a headlight that was it's an external light. It's not the one that comes on the Jaguarundi, but an external light that was supplied to us by Magicycle. So that's blinking. This way oncoming traffic can see her better. I have this light made by Entity, not supplied by Magicycle. This was one that I bought myself. And that's blinking, as you can see, just so people know that we're coming. Now, here's an interesting thing. Like I mentioned, Mrs. Wright has not been riding that long, but once she got on that e-bike, man, she started taking off. I think sometimes she rides faster than I do. As you notice, she hasn't stopped pedaling. She pedals the entire time, but she uses pedal assist, and I think she says she usually uses 2 or 3. I've been throttling most of this time. And this is why we eat up all our battery. Throttling will eat into your range for sure. I should pedal a little bit to kind of get some battery power in here. But I'm on pedal assist level 4. And you notice how fast she's pedaling too. I can't move that quickly. And I don't know what her gears are set for, but now I'm going to throttle up this thing. This is going up a hill. So we're dropping in power. She's still going. I've dropped down to 15. I'm actually pedaling and throttling, and I'm dropping in power. Keep in mind, too, Mrs. Wright doesn't weigh anything compared to me, and I weigh quite a bit. Yeah, it's a big difference in our weights, that's for sure. Now, we did ask the lady who was in charge of the information desk right as we got off the ferry where we should go, and she gave us some direction. She mentioned this church. She says you could park your car by the church, but we ended up parking actually by the ferry. And although it's a 30-minute parking, of course I'm in the handicap parking spot with my handicap placard. She said, yeah, just leave it there. She says no one's going to bother you. There's nobody really on the island compared to later in the year. She says that typically Memorial Day weekend is when things happen here in Door County, and of course we're here a lot earlier than that. So a lot of places are not open. So we kind of have Door County to ourselves, yeah, which we actually like, because we've been here when Door County has lots of people, and it could be kind of crowded sometimes. But no, we've got a lot of the Door County to ourselves at this point. Perfect for riding. Now, originally we thought that this ride was going to rain out on us. We kept looking at the weather forecast before coming. We had paid for our hotel for way in advance. You know, you give a 50% deposit, and then you pay the other 50% when you get here. And it was showing that it would be cold, and it showed that it was going to rain. Well, it's I don't know what the temperature is right now, but I think the high is going to hit like 71 degrees today. It's probably about 68, something like that, maybe right now 67. And so it's not really that cold. She's got her jacket on. I've got a long sleeve sweatshirt on. I did not bring my my yellow. Oh, if you look over to the right, you'll see the water. But Yeah, I feel okay with the sweatshirt. She's got a heavier jacket on. She's always said, "Oh, I look fat with the jacket on and everything." But hey, she's cold. She's gonna have to wear it. But no, she's very thin. All right, we're doing pretty good. What's our mileage here? Oh, I didn't zero out our mileage. I don't know if on her bike it should tell us the actual mileage, because this is the first time she's actually taken the Jaguarundi out. She was gonna take the Jaguarundi earlier, but as you know, in Chicago we've had nothing like but rain and snow and cold, and so she has never had a chance to even ride this bike. This is the very first time she's on the Jaguarundi. So her odometer should say the actual mileage we're actually riding. So we'll check her bike later. So yeah, Washington Island, you got to take a ferry. I think where we're at is Sister Bay. Where we're staying is actually Euphree, I believe. I'll put a spelling up there. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm not really sure, but I think where the ferry picks you up is in Sister Bay. You take, I think it's Route 42, if I'm not mistaken. You take that north until you run into the water. Well, actually, you have to make a right turn at one point, and then continuing on 42, you eventually run into the water, and that's where the ferry picks you up. The ferry ride was about a 30-minute ride, and yeah, you just drive your car right up onto it. They charge per person, then they charge per car. If your bikes are on the car or inside your car, there's no additional charge for your bikes. But if you just brought your bikes and didn't bring your car, then you'd have to pay for the bikes. But if your bikes are on your car or inside your car, you're only paying for the entrance fee for the car. I'll put a graphic up as to how much we paid. I think my total between the two of us plus the car was like $58 for the round trip. It's not so bad considering it's a half-hour ride to get there. And you know, we took the car because one main thing, we just said, you know, it's a kind of a sanctuary for us. If we're tired of riding, we could always go back to the car and hang out by the car. But looking at this here, yeah, I don't know whether that was really necessary. I think we could just bike the thing and we'd be perfectly fine. Now, I'm looking at my battery. I've already dropped 1 bar for the distance that we've gone, and it looks like we are going to stop at this point. So let me have a little conversation with Mrs. Wright, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. Hold on. All right, we're back on the road again. Now here's a couple things that we noticed. The reason she said that she was going as fast as she was is that she said that the cruise control was taken over, or something was going off on its own. I think the problem is this: on these handlebars there are rubber hand grips, and they are locking type hand grips. If you notice, there's well, you can't see it, but there's like a little screw here. If it's pushed in too much, this thing could grab your throttle. And so I think as she's riding and pushing inwards, it's pushing up against the throttle, and that's taking off by itself. So what we did is we unscrewed a little bit over here on the corner edge. Let me angle a little bit there. Can you see that? We unscrewed it and backed it off a little bit. So now there's a little gap between the throttle and the hand grip. Okay, so if you have a Jaguarundi, my suggestion is to do that. Just give it a little more space. If you do that, and then when you're pushing forward and you're kind of grabbing the hand grip, it doesn't push in against it and then takes over for you. Okay, because then it's kind of like pushing the throttle down for you instead. So now we don't know where we are. Obviously, this is the very first time we've been down here. So she rode as far as she could. We ran out of road, so we're backing up again and heading down. So overall, she said she was going fast because the thing was taking over. I asked her whether she looked in the rearview mirror to see that I had stopped to pick up the mirror, and she said she saw me, but she didn't stop because the bike was going forward on her own. Like I said, this is the very first time she's ever ridden a Jaguarundi, so she's got to learn it. And I did tell her that, you know, there is a cruise control and it will take over for you if that throttle is held down for whatever position it's held down to for, I think it's at least 8 seconds or something. Like if you let go now, it'll take over at this point. So to cancel that cruise control out, just hit the brake. You know, just tap the brake a little bit and that'll cancel it. Or I think if you start pedaling, it'll cancel it as well. So little things you just gotta have to learn, right? Now, one thing I will mention that's interesting here at Door County, at least this time of the year, they said, there's these little flying little, what I thought they were mosquitoes, but they're not. There's some type of water fly or something like that they call it, but it looks like a really big gnat. Well, there's like swarms of them, especially if you're by the ferry. It's a whole bunch of them. So yeah, you gotta keep your mouth shut or they're gonna fly in, right? Luckily on the island seems to be less, but right where we got onto the ferry when we were still on Sister Bay, that's where you get onto the ferry. There were so many of them, they were swarming our car and everything. We didn't even want to get out of the car. They say that will go away. That just happens this time of the year, and then it just kind of goes away. They said that they don't bite or anything. They're just a nuisance. Yeah, you're telling me it was a nuisance. All right, let me just finish off this video. We came down the road, and it's kind of a dead end. Didn't go anywhere. It's kind of a private road. So I'm going to call it quits for the video today, and follow me on the next video. We'll continue on as we keep riding down in Washington Island at the Door County area of Wisconsin. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys next time.